The big headline feature for Jurassic World Evolution 3 is dinosaur and other prehistoric animal breeding, allowing our park animals to create heartbreaking juveniles. But we have a ton of information on this system and it is all over the place. So in this video we're going to go through absolutely everything we know about how this system works and speculate a little bit on the bits we don't know quite yet. Let's begin at the beginning. We're lovers and we're losers. I've devolved into song. The foundation for the new breeding system is the new sexual dimorphism system. There are now males and females with different shapes and different skin patterns, like this Utahraptor with the more elaborate feathering, or this Triceratops with the absolutely mammothly, humongously gigantic frill. It's a little silly. Now, this sexual dimorphism is as simple as a toggle. You're going to create a batch of eggs like usual, and then each egg can be shifted between male and female individually or as a group, so you can build the perfect exhibit composition. So aesthetically they look different. We don't know much about behavioural changes quite yet, but a recent line on the Jurassic World Evolution 3 website does suggest that the differences will be more than aesthetic between the sexes, with it saying that dinosaurs will now exhibit diverse behaviour between males, females, and juveniles. Could we see the males or females of certain species being more nurturing to the juveniles? Perhaps we'll see male dinosaurs being more aggressive and female dinosaurs being more defensive of their kids. We'll have to wait and see a little bit on this one. So you've created your breeding population, what's next? Well, we're gonna need a nest. Now these come in 3 different varieties for your land, aquatic and flying species. And whilst the aquatic and flying ones only have 1 nest each, your dinosaurs will have a small, medium and large option. So you'll need to make sure you're picking the right nest size for your chosen dinosaur. Nest placement is gonna matter as well though. Your more precocious creatures will be happy to get down anywhere, but some animals need a nest that's far away from either guests or from other animals, and there may be other conditions to consider. Once placed though, these nests are open to all species that they're suitable for, so smart nest placement could be a really good way to squeeze out some economical efficiency, make one nest viable for several different species at once. With that done, you're now ready to make babies. Sort of. Breeding is hard work, and there's a lot of conditions you'll need to manage for optimal baby making. We can see them all on this info page right here. The biggest part is probably this graph at the top, showcasing how the fertility of this Tropognathus is going to shift over time as she ages towards inevitable eventual death. I'm very curious to see how this works in sandbox mode, because your animals can live forever there. Perhaps it'll become a cyclical system instead, repeating the same graph over time. Further down the list, we can see several modifiers further affecting her fertility. Have you placed the nest in a good location? Has she laid eggs recently? Is she healthy and happy? Does she have the genetic traits for compatibility and increased fertility? Males have some of these. They have the genetic traits and the comfort requirement, but their fertility doesn't fluctuate with age. They can just keep knocking babies out for generations. All of these factors will come together to determine how likely it is for your animals to breed, but you can give them a little bit of help if you like. Using your scientists, you can assign a breeding program. Now, how long this takes is likely to be reliant on the fertility of your 2 chosen animals and the skill of your scientists. But of course, you don't have to do this. You don't have to use your scientists. If you've got 2 fertile, happy animals, they will occasionally breed of their own volition. And you can even stop this entirely if you like through a contraceptives toggle option. Either way, whether through a breeding program or through horniness, eventually your animals will breed. Probably through a social animation if I had to guess. And then the female will move to the nest, she'll lay the eggs and she'll emerge. By clicking the nest, we can see how many eggs there are, how long until they hatch, who owns the nest, who's using it at the moment, and even just obliterate the eggs if you want to be a monster. After that allotted time passes down, your juveniles will emerge from the nest and you'll be a little bit sad because they're not real because, you know, look at them. Now, largely the juveniles are smaller, smoother versions of their parents. They've got bigger heads, they've got bigger eyes, but we do see some more novel changes like the feather length reduced on the baby Utahraptors, or even more specifically, Psittacosaurus will shift from quadrupedal to bipedal when it goes from juvenile to adult. Very curious to see what other niche changes the juveniles will get across the varied genera. Of course, since you didn't create these juveniles in a hatchery, you've got no direct control over the skin coloration and the pattern. That instead is going to be determined by the genetics of the parents. A Svalbard Rana Triceratops and a Mangrove Pelophylax Triceratops might breed to create a Mangrove Rana Triceratops or any other combination thereof. And this system goes beyond just the aesthetics of your animals. The babies will inherit their parents' behaviours as well. So if you've got a particularly sociable or territorial dinosaur, the baby might well inherit one or both of those traits. These traits can even become recessive, disappearing for generations before being reactivated years down the line in a new batch of eggs. It should keep things really interesting. Unfortunately though, as in the real world, you can't just pop a baby out and ignore it, I guess. You'll need to provide for their needs socially. Some juveniles will need, say, a certain number of males around, for example. And you'll need to provide environmentally in terms of providing water, food, and cover and pasture. These are covered areas or wide open areas, respectively. In a twist though, these needs won't necessarily match the needs of the parents, so you're going to need to be a pretty keen exhibit designer to build one that can satisfy both generations at once, potentially of multiple different genera. If you fail to do so, not only will the baby become distraught, but as a result, even if the parent was happy before and their needs are being met, they'll become upset as well. If you do keep them happy though, good job. Your juvenile dinosaurs will receive a points bonus when they reach adulthood, relative to how well you treated them. This means then really to build an optimum, high-performing park, raising and treating well generations of dinosaurs could become really important. Before that can happen though, they'll need to be raised. They'll need to be raised by their parents. And there are 3 different types of juvenile to parent relationship in Jurassic World Evolution 3 that we know of so far. The first is a standard family unit like the Quetzalcoatlus. The male, the female, and the juveniles will all hang out and walk around together. The second is a herd mentality like the Brachiosaurus, wherein juveniles and adults from multiple different families all move together, kind of replicating that big grazing behaviour you see in modern herbivores. And finally, most interestingly, some dinosaurs, when orphaned, like say this poor little baby Ankylosaurus, will actually join in with other family units of entirely different genera, as we can see here with it joining in with the Brachiosaurus herd. It's going to be really interesting to see which behaviours are assigned to which dinosaurs. Finally, after all of this you've kept track of and managed, your juveniles will age up and become breeding ready themselves, prepared to start that next generation. Now we haven't seen this happen, so technically I can't say this with certainty, but I'm gonna say it with certainty. The aging process is instantaneous. There's no ontogeny system in this game a la Prehistoric Kingdom because we would have seen it. We would have been yelling it from the rafters how proud they are and how great this system is, for good reason. Instead, I have to assume Evolution 3 is going to function much like Frontier's other game, Planet Zoo does. When your animal hits the age of maturity, it will age up automatically when your camera is off them. This does at least stop them magically ballooning 10 times larger whilst you're staring them in the face. That is essentially everything we know about how the breeding and juvenile raising system works in this game. Other than a few details, I would say we know basically everything there is to know, and now it's just the little nitty-gritty bits. But there are a few other quirks I want to mention here at the end. We've seen a few clips now of juveniles attempting to escape, albeit not successfully so far. If you treat them badly, they will try to break out, but we don't know for sure whether they actually can quite yet. Juveniles will have their own social animations between themselves and another juvenile, and then another unique one between themselves and their parents. This Brachiosaurus one is a personal favourite of mine so far. Juveniles will only eat from feeders, not from live prey. This assumedly means they won't eat your guests either, unfortunately. Hopefully we can change that one day. We got confirmation of this just a couple of days ago, but your hybrid dinosaurs will, I guess rather logically, not be able to breed. The 7 hybrids returning to the game will be the only 7 animals lacking the juvenile variant, and that means your teeny tiny dinosaurs like say your Compsognathus will be able to breed. I really want to see a baby D-Rex one day though, so I hope this is something they consider down the line. Finally, juveniles tie in directly with a new in-game attraction, the petting zoo, or as they've called it, the Dinosaur Encounter. We can see this man in the trailer petting a juvenile Triceratops. Now, we don't really have any information about this beyond this little segment. I imagine it's only the juveniles of some animals and it's only the adults of some animals, like say the new Psittacosaurus. I don't think anybody's going to be petting a baby T-Rex, unfortunately. And that's about it. There's a lot of information there, but I think it all feels like a fairly logical system. It all kind of runs together nicely, and I think when we get our hands on it, it'll all make sense. There's definitely a few things out there I'm still curious about, but they've given us a lot of information on this system. It is the big new mechanic along with the terrain tools, so it makes sense that they're showing it off a lot, basically. Really excited for this though. Really cool to just have so much more variety in the sizes of our creatures in our parks. Able to make proper Site B parks now with our dinosaurs breeding and kind of keeping the population going. Stuff like that's going to be really exciting in Evolution 3. Let me know what you think about the new breeding system. Is there anything you would add or change or still want to know about it in Evolution 3? Let me know in the comment section down below. Thank you very much for joining me, and I hope you all have a lovely weekend. Cheers, much love as always. Bye-bye.
Road.